by Ms. Autumn Gonzalez as counsel.
Well, OSHA voting on new restrictions aimed at workplace safety during the pandemic, how that could impact operations. Several local schools reverting to online learning after multiple cases of coronavirus. And a week away from Thanksgiving, TSA giving us a look at what to expect if you're catching a flight for the holidays. ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
Great to have you with us this midday. I'm Jim Patton, and I am joined remotely by my co-anchor Virginia Cha and 10 News meteorologist Megan Perry. Great to see you both, and we'll be with you both very shortly. We are just a week away from Thanksgiving, and even though airports will be on the lighter side when it comes to foot traffic compared to previous years, passenger safety is still top of mind for TSA agents. Our ABC 10 News Vanessa Paz at Lindbergh Field with some of the new touchless technologies TSA has implemented that travelers will now see before takeoff.
Right, Jim, a touchless experience is what TSA is giving travelers who are headed out to the airport before entering the gates this holiday season. But while some might see it as convenience, TSA said it really all boils down to safety. Now today they did announce touchless additions for travelers that will help minimize physical contact and mitigate the potential spread of COVID-19. They've added credential authentication technology, a device that will have to scan your ID or passport in lieu of handing it over to an agent. They also upgraded familiar features like X-ray scanners travelers put their luggage through, which will now have computed tomography scanners. It will ramp up the image of your luggage and its belongings, which will ultimately lead to less bag checks and less touch points in a single day. We spoke to Lori Dankers with TSA, and she said this has all been in the works, but production was ultimately ramped up given its demand amid COVID-19. Now, upon arrival, you will see, of course, those familiar sights and protocols like placing those electronics, metal items into the bin. But Lori Dankers with TSA says that she highly does not recommend that you place anything in a bin. In fact, she recommends you place it in your carry-on before putting it on the belt to go through the scanner to minimize any touch points throughout your travels. Reporting from Lindbergh Field this afternoon, Vanessa Paz, ABC 10 News.
All good to know. Thank you, Vanessa. Well, this morning, another delay to a lawsuit that we have been following. Businesses looking for the court to weigh in on the public health restrictions. So Cowboy Star Restaurant and Butcher Shop, Home and Away Encinitas, Fit Athletic Club, and Bear Republic are among the 4 businesses suing. They say the ongoing restrictions and closures are doing irreparable harm to their businesses. They want a judge to grant them an injunction to allow businesses to operate indoors. A hearing was scheduled for today, but it has now been pushed to tomorrow. Meanwhile, later today, we will be getting an unscheduled update on the pandemic from local leaders and health officials. It's not clear what exactly they'll be talking about, but we do know 5 more businesses were given cease and desist orders yesterday. Today's update, 2:30 this afternoon. Of course, we'll have more on that for you later on editions of ABC 10 News. Meanwhile, today students at 3 Vista Unified secondary schools pivoting back to online classes. Now the move impacts Vida and Roosevelt Middle Schools and Vista High. Each of the schools had a positive case, which under the district's plan means all students have to return to online learning. One parent we talked to says this is a setback for her kids.
Well, neither one of my kids do well with virtual school. Neither one of them. And having in-person learning is extremely important to both of them, not only because they learn better in person, but the social aspect.
We're told classes in Vista Unified can have up to 38 children. Desks are not 6 feet apart. This is the second pivot to virtual for Vista High. All 3 schools are scheduled to return to in-person learning December 1st. And after a day of protesting by parents outraged their children are forced to stay home, the Carlsbad School Board approved the district's plan for elementary schools to return to in-person learning. Students are expected back on campus January 5th, but virtual learning will still be an option for all students. Jim?
Virginia, happening right now, Cal OSHA discussing new policies that would offer more COVID-19 protection for employees amid this pandemic. ABC 10 News reporter Marie Coronel has details on the changes and why workers say they need them right now.
As coronavirus cases surge across the state, employees and advocates are pushing for more COVID-19 protection. There were more than 500 people that signed up to speak at the virtual Cal-OSHA meeting to voice their concerns.
We will be in perpetual outbreak status due to social spread, even if we never have a traced case of workplace spread.
The Cal-OSHA Standards Board deciding whether to approve a temporary standard specifically tailored to COVID-19 protection. WorkSafe, which is the nonprofit organization that's pushing for this new standard, sent this letter to the board. They're asking for enough PPE for employees, more safety training for staff, and the guarantee of transparency when it comes to COVID-19 cases at the workplace.
If, for example, a worker tells an employer that they were diagnosed with COVID, then the employer does have an obligation to look inside their workplace and figure out where exposures might have happened, inform workers of that so that precautions can be taken.
WorkSafe says many employers have already added COVID-19 protection to their programs, but added regulations from Cal-OSHA would provide more consistency across the board. Reporting from home, Marie Cornell, ABC 10 News.
Thank you. And today, President-elect Biden meeting with governors from across the country to discuss what they need from the government to help fight coronavirus. That's coming as his transition team continues to battle with the White House over delays. ABC's Alex Brichet has more.
As COVID-19 deaths have surpassed 250,000 in the U.S., the president and vice president-elect are holding a virtual meeting with a bipartisan group of governors, listening to what they need most to combat the pandemic. While recent breakthroughs have raised hopes about a possible COVID-19 vaccine arriving as soon as next month, several states say they need more federal money to ensure distribution of the vaccine, resources to hire staff and develop data systems. But the lame duck Trump administration is preventing this incoming Biden White House from accessing crucial coronavirus data.
There's a whole lot of things that we just don't have available to us, which unless it's made available soon, we're going to be behind by weeks or months.
The president-elect warning during a virtual healthcare roundtable that the lack of cooperation from the Trump administration could delay critical support to doctors and nurses already struggling.
Do you know that I have not been tested yet, and I have been on the front lines in the ICU since February?
You're kidding me.
No.
President Trump hasn't spoken about the record-breaking surge in COVID cases. Instead, he's fixated, tweeting about the election, still falsely claiming that there was widespread fraud and launching long-shot legal challenges hoping to overturn the results. Trump's team paying $3 million for a recount in 2 heavily Democratic Wisconsin counties, a move unlikely to change the outcome in the state. Biden leads by over 20,000 votes there. And in Georgia, staffers worked right up to the midnight deadline to finish retallying over 5 million votes. Officials there urging Americans to trust the system, saying the final results won't change Biden's win. Georgia officials expected to announce the results of their statewide audit later today.
The Office of Georgia's Secretary of State said that Americans need to have faith in the outcomes of their elections, whether they win or lose, because that is the bedrock for a transition of power in the country. Alex Brichet, ABC News, Washington.
Today, the San Diego Water Authority discussing the possibility of a multi-billion-dollar project to provide San Diego with another source of water. Water Authority wants to build a new pipeline that stretches to the Colorado River. Water Authority says the pipeline would give San Diego independence from LA, which controls its current system. And today, officials discussing hundreds of thousands in funding for things like environmental studies to look into that project. Virginia?
Thank you, Jim. Well, this year's Holiday Bowl and Parade not happening because of the pandemic, but the Blood and Food Drive is still taking place today. Last month, organizers announced the Holiday Bowl and festivities would be canceled for the first time in 43 years. The Bowl, though, pledging to come back strong next year. But they are going through with their partnership with the San Diego Blood Bank and the San Diego Food Bank because donations are greatly needed. Now, this drive is happening today until 7 p.m. at the Grossmont Center. You will have to make an appointment to donate blood. Hawaii warning visitors to take its COVID restrictions as seriously as the state does. A California woman learning the hard way after authorities put her in cuffs.
And on the mend, a cougar nursed back to health after being burned during a major wildfire outside of LA this year.
And things are cool for now. I'll pinpoint how long that will last and when we'll see some mild Santa Ana winds move in.
Leaders in California law enforcement calling for a cultural shift to repair trust between officers and the communities they serve.
We want to recruit people who have the capacity for emotional regulation so that they don't get angry, they don't see authority challenges as personal challenges, they don't fall on use of force as a first response to a challenge to their authority. We want people who are good at planning and thinking ahead. We want people who have a capacity to learn from their mistakes.
Proposal called The Future of Policing in California would establish a statewide recruitment task force to increase diversity in law enforcement. It would also create an education fund to support higher education degrees for those committing to the career. According to a recent survey, only 7% of officers recommended law enforcement as a career due to the growing disrespect and mistrust by the public. Well, more encouraging news about a coronavirus vaccine. Oxford University has been working with AstraZeneca on their vaccine. So far, they say results from their phase 2 trial show it's just as effective for older demographics as it is for younger. AstraZeneca is the same company conducting trials here in San Diego and in the South Bay. Researchers are still waiting for data from the phase 3 trial before getting close to asking for approval. Today, Facebook saying it has developed an AI model that predicts the spread of coronavirus across the country, including here in San Diego. Say they fed their AI program anonymous data from their site that's publicly available to try to model the virus's spread. The company launched this initiative back in October and is starting to see results. Facebook predicts San Diego will see about 12,000 new cases by the end of the month. That would be an 18% jump of the total number of cases the county has had since the start of the pandemic.
Well, a California woman has been arrested in Maui after allegedly violating Hawaii's COVID-19 quarantine orders. The state's attorney general there says that's not uncommon.
We've arrested hundreds and hundreds of people like this traveler from California. She left her quarantine site and then took a flight to Maui from Honolulu. And at that point, she didn't even go to a designated quarantine site. So at that point, she was flagged.
Hawaii has lifted their quarantine for anyone who has a negative test within 72 hours of a flight. But if a traveler isn't tested before a flight, they have to go through a 14-day quarantine. Well, a mountain lion burned in the Bobcat fire, not only making an amazing recovery, but also making California history. The 7-year-old mountain lion is now the very first in California to be rescued, rehabilitated, released, and found thriving again in her natural habitat. She was first found sprawled out in a homeowner's backyard in September with severe burns on her paws from the 114,000-acre Bobcat fire. Rescuers gave her an experimental treatment to heal her paws. On October 23rd, she was released back into the Angeles National Forest and was seen on a trail camera 2 weeks later.
We were ecstatic to see her on the cameras. In short, we were very excited to see that she looks good, she's walking well.
Researchers say it appears the mountain lion has been spending time at a preserve just 8 miles from where she was rescued. So glad she's doing okay.